Hi. So today is Friday, and it's another day that it's raining. But again, it's an off and on type of event. But we decided that we would go for a trip. So what we went to, or where we are at, you can see up here is the orchid garden. There is 450 species of orchids that we're going to see. Okay, so it's going to be pretty cool, I think. So let's go and see what we're going to see.
Rica, pero tiene que acercarse mucho. Porque vela por dentro, ¿no? Sí, vean que me traen, vean por dentro.
Oh, great.
All orchids put together. This purple one might just be the most common one. You see it in trees and roadsides and open spaces. Welcome. And where are you from?
I'm from California, Southern California.
California? Perfect. Same?
Toronadora.
Ah, perfect. And do you know much about the orchids or a little bit?
A little bit.
All right. Well, I was just mentioning, these wild orchids that we will see around. There is a lot of different species which do not look anything like each other. There's a lot of variety. I was mentioning this is the wild average size of orchids too. From here you can see way bigger as much as you can see way tiny. We will see a lot of examples, but also the most of them are these air plant or epiphyte orchids, not parasites at all. There is a symbiosis with fungus in the roots, which is what helps them together. Algo que siempre me gusta mencionar también, la orquídea no es solamente tropical, tampoco origina en los trópicos. Y lo menciono porque Alaska tiene 10 veces más orquídeas que Hawái. 30 especies, Hawái tiene 3. El detalle es que Hawái vende y exhibe y comercializa miles. Cualquiera piensa que Hawái está lleno de orquídeas, pero solo comercializa. Eso sí, si Hawái tiene 3 especies, Alaska 30. O sea, 10 veces más, sí, pero no es que son 100 o 1000, 30 especies en Alaska. Siempre me gusta mencionarlo, es como una trivia.
¿Cómo se hace con esas temperaturas tan extremas?
Ese es el detalle. Ahí es donde originaron las orquídeas. Más bien, ¿cómo hacen aquí? Esa es la pregunta. Ellos se adaptaron poco a poco, pero sí, eso es curioso, porque al final, recuerden que la orquídea no es una especie de planta, es una familia de 30.000 especies de planta. Entonces, como tal, cada especie está adaptada a un microclima un poquito diferente. Ya si usted compara de la número uno a la número 30.000, las condiciones son completamente relativamente, sí, exacto. So I'm mentioning, there's 30,000 kinds of orchids throughout the world. They are not only tropical, they do not originate in tropics. That's a common myth or misconception with orchids. I was mentioning a fun detail. This is like a trivia fact. Alaska has 30 orchid species. Most of them, locals don't know them as orchids, but they have 30 species. Hawaii has just 3. There's 10 times more wild Alaskan orchids than there are Hawaiian orchids. Now, I should emphasize, Hawaii sells and exhibits thousands of orchids. Those are just not native, hybrid foreign orchids brought by people there. And you don't have to trust me with that. You can look at a botanical book to see the numbers. But I always point that out. Yeah, there is more orchid species in Alaska than in Hawaii. If people think or if you think how do orchids adapt to grow in Alaska in those cold environments, well, again, that's where they originated in the north hemisphere of the world. So the question should be, how did those adapt to tropical environments? But I always like to mention, don't think of orchids as one species of plant. Think of orchids as a family with 30,000 species of plants. That's what orchids are. And as 30,000 species family, each specific species is different to another. If you count orchid number 1 with orchid number 30,000, the climates and regions they're adapted to are completely
Hmm.
different. Yeah, just by varying it a little bit each time. Yeah. So yeah, most of what we'll see are the native ones. Not mentioning the tall ones, those are called the bamboo orchids. Not Costa Rican or even tropical. That's a Himalayan orchid species, and it's a ground growing kind too. So we're mentioning, yeah, genetically all orchids are related and they always have the same flower structure, but the flowers can still look different anyway, even with that structure. Plant shapes will look different. But yeah, the bamboo orchid, again, yeah, it's Himalayan. It's not a native one here. It's just that much of a resistant orchid that people have been able to grow it throughout the world. We were just mentioning how locals will confuse it with the national flower of Costa Rica, which is another purple orchid. Difference is, the national flower of Costa Rica has the same tone of purple throughout its whole flower. You'll notice for this one, different petals have different tones of purple, so that would rule it out. But also, our national flower is one of the epiphyte orchids. It's not a ground growing one, so that would also rule it out. They were asking about a white version of that. The white version of the guaria, which is the name of our national flower, is not a different species. A lot of times people think it is. It's the same species born albino. So there is albinism in orchids too. They're color varieties, but it depends on the species. So I'm mentioning something curious there too with the resistance of some of these wild orchids. Some can grow throughout the whole world and for years and years. Yeah, some of these over 100 years, even longer. The thing is, those orchids are actively not sold in stores because then you don't kill it, you keep it alive, you don't buy more. So not good for a business that sells the plants. The orchids we buy today, which are hybrids, are purposefully hybridized to give the trait that they can die young enough for you to buy them. A bit of a planned obsolescence. They're like the electronics. It's like they have an average life. And yeah, wild orchid can live way older, but all because they save up energy in specific different ways. But of course, a wild orchid will live that old in its right habitat, which is not the same for every orchid. Shape of the petals. There are kinds of the lady slipper orchids from Alaska and Canada through South America, some in Europe, some in Asia. Many people know lady slippers, but not too many people know them as orchids. The 30 Alaskan orchids mostly are kinds of the lady slippers. Yep. Yeah, so those are ground growing kinds too. Mencionaba que estas orquídeas, las patillas, son parientes de esas 30 orquídeas de Alaska. Son típicas. Voy a preguntarles, ¿cuál creen ustedes que es la mejor época de fiesta?
La seca porque le gusta la luz.
He visto varios, digamos. So I'm mentioning this one's here. This one's called the antelope orchid. You can see why it gets the name too. And the tall ones here, this can have a hint of perfume there, but it's not super strong.
Él le hizo así, ¿verdad? O sea,
Exacto.
le hizo así, nada más que le hizo antes para marcar el lucidito. Véalo.
Justo ahí.
Vea, tome la foto. Usted dice, se le ve,
Se nota
se ve
bastante,
como,
exacto.
así, como la bailarina, ¿verdad? El
vestido.
vestido, qué bello.
Yeah, you can come closer here and take a look at this. So I'll just show really quick here. This white one, not native to Costa Rica. This is a European African orchid that grows in grass, open fields, ground growing. So it's called the jewel orchids. They are a little more commercial for their leaf color pattern than their flowers. Yeah. So jewel orchids. Yeah, you can take a picture right here. Back here, but you can also come close to take a good look at this one. We were seeing one earlier with the yellow flowers called the dancing lady. This is another one. You can see like a dress with the head, arms, and dress. We will see others with the yellow again, but this one has a perfume. It's like a vanilla chocolate perfume too. Yeah. Ahora, los phalaenopsis son las que se ven. Yeah, that's the one with the perfume. Like a vanilla chocolate. I'm mentioning the phalaenopsis. That's the typical commercial orchids we see in stores all over the world today. There are wild phalaenopsis in Asia, but the hybrid ones we see always. So those are the ones treated by people. And yeah, basically they are meant to grow exposed, roots exposed and all because they are air plant or epiphytes. The biggest mistake we mentioned earlier that people do is to cut roots or repot them since it is an air plant. Yeah, with the root exposure too. A lot of these you could plant on a tree or a piece of wood, which is how you would find them naturally growing in Asia. Also, I was mentioning my boss calls these the Walmart orchids because they are so commercial. But then these are rescued from trash cans. People thought they were sick or dying or thought they wouldn't rebloom. So we brought them back to just help them continue. Help them restart. So also, yes, some of you joined later. We were mentioning in the beginning how one of the world's most famous orchids is not too famous as an orchid. That's vanilla. Vanilla bean we get comes from the fruit, the seed pod, after this orchid blooms and gets pollen. Yep. So vanilla can grow into a 40-meter tall plant. It can grow large, actually. Big flowers too. Same flower structure again, although it looks maybe a little more like a green version of those. Um, but also blooms and dies the same day. It's one of those one-day orchids. I like to mention in Costa Rica, anytime you buy a vanilla product, there's always a drawing, a picture of an orchid flower, and it is always the wrong orchid. It's a fun trait to realize when you start looking. Mentioning, yeah, with the dancing lady orchids or gold rain orchids, we have a lot of species in Costa Rica, about 30 species in this group. That includes that red version that had the vanilla chocolate perfume, but most of them are yellowish like this. So with Costa Rica, when 30 people are speaking of the dancing lady orchid and they all say in unison, oh, I have one, me too, me too, me too, each one could actually be speaking of a whole different species of the dancing lady. Just because there's that many, they can look alike, but oh yeah, that's actually in fact same species.
Oh.
This is the same species. Yeah. I can tell by certain how to say traits between the flower, like the size of flower, separation between flowers, long length of flowering stem, and all that. Yeah. There's many variables, of course. That's what I'm mentioning. Is that when locals start speaking about those dancing ladies and they say, oh, but mine is bigger, oh, no, mine is smaller, or mine has the flowers more concentrated or more wide apart, or mine is just a little more white or a little bit darker brown, each of those traits is telling you they're speaking of a different species of the dancing ladies. Yeah, but they can look similar enough. Unless you do compare the two extremes, then you realize those are different. Sí, ya cuando uno compara, digamos, todas las líneas de oro diferentes, pueden parecer. Si uno se está comparando los dos extremos, sí puede que sean bien diferentes. Pero entre medio siempre hay muchos.
So the guide was mentioning the fact that flower or the orchids could be different species. Kirsten, my daughter, showed him a picture of the orchids they have in their house, or not in their house, but in their backyard. And what he said was that happened to be the exact same species as this one that's right in front of you right now that you're seeing.
So yes, the amaryllis are onion garlic related. The allium, the onion garlic plants, those are a genus of amaryllis. It's a group of amaryllis. I was mentioning amaryllis share ancestry with orchids. They can look similar, but there's a few differences. First of all, for any flower where you see pistils and stamens, that's not an orchid. Orchids have a cone, a single stem with male and female parts. Also, orchids have 6 flower parts. I guess you guys, you did this part. There's always 6 flower parts, but always one of the petals is modified. It's like a landing site. Now, for an amaryllis, the 6 parts look like each other. The bigger white one. Yep. So if you see 6 parts and they look the same, not an orchid. If one of them in the front looks different, that is an orchid. Visually, that's one of the oldest. Oh,
Right here,
Okay.
right? Yes. You see that part moving? So this part more like maxillary gland, right? So this part more like trampoline, right? And then the insect right here, they jump in and hit the top. So they catch falling with the head and back and thumb in one part of the body. Right? So they
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them being different. Makes it an orchid. Okay, so not sure that all came through with the sound, but what they're having is a drink that this place is famous for. It's actually where it was invented, and the inventor picture is up on the wall. So he's the gentleman that invented the drink. And again, it's leche dormido, sipping milk. And as I say, you heard it before, but I'm not sure that the microphone was on. It's sort of like eggnog, but it's not. It's close, but not the same. So it's a drink they have all year round, where eggnog we have only happens during the Christmas time. This is a drink they have constantly. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go and wait for my meal. Okay, so you can see that's the barbecue chicken. So it's chunks of chicken, the French fries, and then pretty nice looking salad, and then that's the salad dressing. So I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so just finished up our meal, and Justin said that it was the best rice he's had in the country, so it must be really good. And yeah, it was shrimp with rice, and he liked it very much. They also both love the leche dormida. Okay, and me, the barbecue chicken with the French fries and the salad was very, very good too. I'd give it, definitely a big thumbs up. So this was a really good meal. We had a good meal for lunch too. Didn't film that one. We went to an Italian restaurant, and Kirsten and I ordered pizzas. She had a pepperoni pizza. I just had a cheese pizza, and then you had some type of pasta. What was it? Carbonara. Okay. So and he liked that too. So we found two good restaurants in the local area. So, well, thanks guys. Have a great one. I'm not sure I will film the park, but I do need to get a little bit more walking in. So maybe we'll walk around the square one time just to get a little bit of exercise. Okay? So thanks guys. Have a great night, and we'll see each other again probably tomorrow when we take a ride down to the beach area and see what it's like down there. Okay. Take care. Okay. So I decided I am going to film it, and here we go. That's pretty awesome. We haven't seen the, the soccer field, but everything else so far has been identified. Here's the church, park, and, then and as we came into town was the Apoyo Landia. So it's definitely a town. For my 2 years of Spanish in high school, long time ago, I could figure out that Zapato Loco's crazy shoes. Okay, back to the car. Thanks for the walk, guys.